everyone and welcome to Simplilearn's YouTube channel. You're already watching Simplilearn and today we bring you this informative video about Adobe XD tutorial. This tutorial is designed for learning UI UX design using Adobe XD. It is very useful for UI and UX designers, graphic designers, and the other professionals as it is leading and trending the market among the UI designing tools available because of its many advanced features and tools. Before we begin, if these are the videos you like to watch, then hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified. And if you are a tech geek, here is a brain teaser for you. Who coined the concept of Adobe XD? The first one is Don Norman, Talon Wordsworth, Dylan Field, or is it Raymond Lloyd? Let us know your answer below and get ahead from Simplilearn. Without any further delay, let's get started with the session. Now let's take a quick look at the agendas first. Here we cover the basics and advanced topics of Adobe XD. First, we will start by understanding what Adobe XD is. We'll then review some of the Adobe XD's advanced features. Then we'll see how prototyping works in Adobe XD. Lastly, useful tips for designing and creating image graphics and web designs in Adobe XD with top use cases. What is Adobe XD? Adobe XD is a powerful and trending design tool that is easy to use and a vector-based software tool for designing digital designs and prototyping UI and UX that gives the tool that a developer needs to develop the world's best experience collaboratively. Adobe XD is designing the UI or UX for web applications, mobile applications, and many applications. It also provides an ideal way to create assets for different applications. Adobe XD is provided and managed by Adobe Inc. It comes for macOS operating system and Windows only. We cannot use it in Linux-based operating systems. It creates a web-based link that can be opened using any web browser. But Adobe XD becomes the most useful tool. Before Adobe XD, the Photoshop tool was widely used for design purposes, but Photoshop doesn't have a user experience. This disadvantage of Photoshop design makes Adobe XD the most efficient design tool as we have an application for user experience. Its prototyping and animation features give the application a complete virtual tool. The best thing about Adobe XD is that it provides a user interface for design. Each tool in Adobe XD has optimal options, making it incredibly simple to utilize. As a result, it saves the designers a huge amount of time. On the same project, designers make various places can simply work together. Team members can watch and provide comments and suggestions through commenting and pinning directly from their browser using the link sharing tool. Now we will see what are the advanced features of Adobe XD. Adobe XD has a wide range of extensive and powerful features and applications that makes it an essential tool for any UX designer. Some highlighted features of Adobe XDs are: the first one is components and states. Second, padding and stacks. The third one is repeat grid. And the last one is responsive resize. So the first one is components and states. These are advanced features that Photoshop doesn't support. Components allow the creations of it once and then can use it multiple times in the same existing project, providing features to the applications. When building certain design elements like buttons and navigations and maintaining the alignments across our design, components are helpful. Changes we make to the primary components will also affect the supporting components, therefore it will be helpful for design changes. And for the stats, as opposed to components, are also effective approach to making the design functional. We can preview our variations on a single component thanks to states. States can be used to design produce effects like hover, click, toggle, and many more. And it is helpful to create and design cleanly by reducing the number of artboards. For example, instead of developing a new artboard for a drop-down menu, we can construct one using a click state. So the next one is padding and stacks. These are also some advanced features of Adobe XD that are not available in other designing softwares like Photoshop and are useful features of Adobe XD. It is very helpful when working with dynamic content such as buttons and labels and managing content sections and exploring design. It will save significant time and effort and provide a well organized design structure. And the third one is repeat grid. Repeat grid is also one of the excellent feature of Adobe XD and also one of the best feature of Adobe XD. By using a feature of a repeat grid, we can easily copy up with the same layout multiple times. It can be used in building the images, data tables, image galleries, and other things. It takes a long time to design these UI components. The repeat grid functionality could save our lives in such circumstances. We may turn on the repeat grid for a certain items with just one click. Using the repeat slider, we may repeat any objects or collections of objects once the repeat grid features is enabled. The text and graphics on the repetition grid can also be modified. And the next one is responsive resize. The world is full of different types of e-gadgets, smartphones, smartwatches, and TV. So while working with the design, we must ensure UI compatibility for all sizes of devices. The responsive resize features allow us to automatically understand the design for a new device and fit the design in. There are several other exclusive and intelligent features of Adobe XD that allows us to choose Adobe XD over any other graphic designing software. To understanding some of the features of Adobe XD, we will see how prototyping works in Adobe XD. Adobe XD supports dynamic and interactive prototyping for the design to interact with different layouts. We can add animation, transitions to stimulate the flow of the application. We provide a real-time preview of the application. Using the prototype features of Adobe XD, we can experience a virtual tour of the application. The prototype can be shared with the team and stakeholders through a web link. The team can experience a complete preview of the applications and provide valuable feedback right from the browser. Adobe XD supports dynamic and interactive prototype for the design to interact between different layouts. We can add animation, transitions to stimulate the flow of the application. It provides a real-time preview of the application. Using the prototype features of Adobe XD, we can experience a virtual tour of the application. The prototypes can be shared easily with the team and stakeholders through a web link. The team can experience a complete preview of the application and provide valuable feedback right from their browsers. So, in the design mode, we create the design for our applications using Adobe XD tools and designs features. Then we switch to prototype mode to specify the interactive links between the artboard and components. We can also create prototypes using the components tree. Once we are done with the design and prototype, we can share the design using the share feature. We can preview the designs and prototypes using the previous features. The prototype is one of the finest features of Adobe XD, which makes it different from other tools. We can also add transitions and animations to our prototypes while redirecting to other screens. After understanding how prototyping works in Adobe XD, we will understand the top uses of Adobe XD in different fields. Top Adobe XD Use Cases. Adobe XD is a flexible tool and can be used for a wide range of design projects. Some popular uses include create wireframe, templates, and prototypes, design user interface, create illustrations and graphics, streamlines the UI and UX design process, enjoy custom design, and the last one is design augmented and virtual reality. The first one is create wireframes, templates, and prototypes. Adobe XD is an excellent tool for quickly creating wireframes and prototypes. Creating simple and complex design is easy, and you can add interactive elements to make your prototype more realistic. The prototype tool is excellent for web design, mockups, and mobile apps, and for making real-time updates to your UI and UX project. And the next one is design user interface. Adobe XD is a great tool for designing. It's a vector based, so you can create designs and has many built-in UI elements to use in your designs. The third one is create illustrations and graphics. Adobe XD is a great tool for creating illustrations and graphic design elements, offering an extensive creative library with the vector, images, shapes, colors, and fonts. The interactive prototype updates in real time, so your workflow is fast and responsive when building mobile apps and web designing and more. The next one is streamline the UI UX design process. Adobe XD makes it easier to duplicate and reuse the common elements, create repeating content, and automate the process to save time. So the next one is enjoy custom design. Adobe XD lets you create variations of a single components and maintain spacing between the contents of a group and the other bounds. It is possible because of its padding options, endless customizations using space, wireframes, and colors, and more within the Adobe XD design system. And the last one is design augmented and virtual reality. Adobe XD supports designing augmented and virtual reality experience. You can add 3D objects to your prototypes and test how they work in an immersive environment, making crafting AR and VR experience easy, even if you are a beginner. Let's take a look at Adobe Experience Design XC. Is a part of the Adobe source that primarily focus on UI design, UX design, prototyping, and responsive web designs. It's available for both Mac and PC as long as you have an Adobe CC subscription. It's most definitely competitor to along the modern design tools that have come out recently and you might be using like Sketch or Figma or the dozen others that are on the market right now. So in this video, I'm going to cover the basic things you need to know about XC when you first open up the project to help you to get up and running and feel really confident about the program. I'm ready to get started. I hope you are. Let's do this thing. Okay, let's get jump into right the computer and figure out when the 10 basic things or the basic that you need to know about. I'm just going to roll and I'm gonna open XD. Okay, and we will open up the program and you can see it's open, it's right up and it's dropped as an artboard into our canvas. The artboard system is really common things nowadays and model design tools and exists no different and allows you to put new artboards onto the canvas anytime you want. You can do that's by rolling over here into the tools panel and here an artboard tool, and you can use the hotkey of A and you can do the things. You can draw out and customize the size of an artboard, and I'm just gonna command Z to undo that. Or you can choose from the different selection that we have, like we have iPhone X up here. Maybe we want to do like an Android mobile device as well, and I'm want to like an iPhone 14 Pro to the right, and then it's every time you want to put an artboard just down on the screen, it's going to just space it when you open out to the right. And also with artboard, you can use, and also with artboard you can press the V command or use your selection tool, and you can grab the artboard by just grabbing the top kind of portion of the name of that artboard, and you can move it around the canvas and you can get some automatic snapping for spacing and all that kind of good stuff. But that's the first thing that you need to notice: how to make artboard, how to move them, and also how to resize them by just simply that. And all right, so the second thing you probably need is a basic tool or understanding of the interface. And so what we are going to do right now is very general fashion, not real in depth. We're just going to kind of cruise through the interface and show you what we have on the very left hand side. We kind of already covered it. We have the tool panel where you can drop the different shapes or lines. You can use your pen tool, text, and you can zoom in Each of these have an hotkey and that you can learn to kind of speed up your workflow, down at the bottom of this same panel. And you can see there we have a hotkey, and as well as, and you can click over yeah, these assets, the assets where in where X is gonna store all of your colors and your characters style and your reusable symbols or components you can reuse through your projects. And so you knowing how to click back and forth between your layers and your symbols or your layers and your assets, really powerful part of XD. Right next to that we have all the artboards displayed. We can see all the three on their own separate line. Up at the top left, you can see we are currently on the design tab, and we'll talk about this layer, but we can click over to prototype tab where we can able to create interactions between our kinds of artboard and create interactive prototypes. So that's the difference between these two tabs, that we have the name obviously of our project, and then we have some basics controls on the top right, like zoom in, zoom out, like what percentage are we currently looking at. We want a device preview it or desktop preview it looks like, so we can share these designs. And then you all have your basic tools. If I just draw a rectangle, and then you have all your basic tools. If I just want to draw a rectangle, and then if you all see the basic tools, I have just drawn the rectangle, and you see over in my properties panel, then you have all your alignment tools and some interesting repeats grid, and you have pathfinders or the boolean operations, and you have all your different properties for your width, your height, your x and y value, and we have some different prototyping options, as well as all of your appearance options like colors, text, and different stroke sizes, and all the good stuff is there. And that is a basic tour of the interface. All right, the third thing you might want to know how to do using Adobe XD, like any other Adobe product, is to use the pen tool, and that's by simply clicking on the pen tool in the tools panel or by pressing the hotkey of P. Once I do it, I get my pen icon and I can start by adding nodes to my artboard and create custom shapes, filling those custom shapes with colors. Coming back and redness of redressing, we can redress the individual node, and we can redress in the individual node, and I can add new nodes on however any line. I can redress in the individual node. I can add new node by hovering over any line. I can also delete each one at a time by pressing delete key, and it will just slowly move around and delete each of these points. A few interesting things about the pen tool in Adobe XD is that, unlike most other Adobe products, may hold down shift and gently, I can hold down shift and get increments on. I can just kind of freeform it by doing it with nothing but my hand once I release. And I have created here a brazier curve. So it's gonna be and it will come out straight. It's gonna automatically kind of smart pan or bow the curve. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing. If I created a straight line, and if I hold down the option key like is in most other program, I can just control one of the basic handles instead of both the handles to give myself a little a little bit more controls of where I'm going to go next, but the automatic curve thing, it's a little bit, yeah. The fourth thing that you are gonna want to know about in Adobe XD is about styles and reusable symbols. We have created kind of funky shape on our canvas, and I can select the shape, fill it with, and we can add an ugly color. Yeah, that's not such an ugly color, but now let's say I want to make this some sort of reusable component that I could use over and over. In this a bad use case, and I had it's probably be something more likely a button or logo or a certain style that you can have to going on your project. But for your our example, this will do if I want to create a reasonable symbol out of this element, though I would roll all the way over to the left and down between my asset and my layers. I have an asset panel and it's here. There's few things I can do while I'm here in my asset panel. I could probably create a reusable color. We have a border color and the fill color that are both a part of now that the rest of this design, and I can always come back and reuse those styles. I can also create a reusable symbol and I can rename this symbol. I can call block because this what it looks like to me, and anything and anytime I want another one of these, I could either option to drag, and this could either option drag another one out, or I could drag one from my asset panel. And there's like this, it's a nice visual representation of all your reusable components in your project, and it's really nice symbol work in a very interesting way, I will say. You just take any of the represented symbols on the canvas, and you can change the properties with the color, and will change the size of this, right? And I can also double click and change the size of the element. When I do that, it changes every symbol, not only on the canvas but also the symbol panel. So yeah, so that's kind of interesting. So now we have changed the size of our symbol, and maybe we want to have that color into our colors. We also have character styles, so I can use my text tool. I just drag out some text and say let's just write headline, and let's choose a headline and just drag out some text and say that let's just write a headline, and let's choose a headline, like maybe we will all grab a Futura or bold, or let's make the size little big, and maybe even make it little more bold. Yeah, and our headline still something like 60, and then we can take the character style, and we can take that headline into our character style, and we can add it into our character style panel, and we can rename like, and we can take the character style and we can add it into our character style panel, and we can rename this, Like maybe we want this just to be like H1. And so now, so we have a headlining, and anytime we have like two new text, we could start when typing anything like she with kind of text that I was using. I can apply that character style simply by clicking on my new and text and double clicking on my character style and home, and we have our headline style has been applied on one thing. And I really enjoying is if you have a multiple of those styles or multiple of those symbols on a page or across different canvas, you can right click and highlight all of them on every canvas throughout your entire project. That's really really cool as well. The fifth thing we are going to talking about Adobe XD is, in my opinion, uh, one of its coolest features, and that's its ability to repeat grids and speed up the design process with its repeatable grid features. I have now created what I consider to be a reusable component. I'm going to click back over to my layers view, and I'm going to group it together. I'm just going to call that card. Okay. Now I'm going to group that together. I'm just going to call that card. Okay. And now I want to perhaps make lots of these cards and then added the spacing and how they all work together, like all at one time instead of duplicating again and duplicating. Instead, I can just click on the element I want to duplicate and head over to my properties. After dragging down and all the copies of it appear, and now we can have multiple copies that are being controlled by our grid. We can just kind of fix them, like, and that if we want to change or edit the spacing that we have of our cards in between from one to another, we can literally just double click and we can roll over those margin areas, and we can grab and just kind of stretch out to our liking. So now, and this feature is very extremely enjoyable. I think it's really speed up kind of the rapid prototyping aspects of design, as well as some of that tedious kind of back and forth of spacing things. You don't have to do that because all these taken care of right here in our repeat grid function. The next thing we need to talk about is prototyping. It's a kind of big deal in XD. It's so big, it has its own tab up the top of the left and to the right of the design. Now we are in the prototype tab, and prototyping is really really easy. You literally just gonna click on any sort of element that you want to, like for instance, for our cards or for the triangle or for the circle, I'm going to grab the tab and I just connect it to, and you're gonna set it any type of trigger. For instance, I'm putting the trigger as a tab, and animation should be like, I will choose only auto animate, and this one back to this. For this we have to see whether is it working or not. First we will tap on this, and we have the play button over here, so the thing it will pop out. And when the thing we have putting on the trigger as by tapping, when we will tap on the circle. The next page of the iPad is coming after the iPhone 14 Pro to the iPad 1. So our final point, it's all about sharing. Sharing is caring, and as the is all about sharing, and so we are not we are in our prototype view right now. It doesn't matter if you are in your design or prototype, the share icon will always show up in the very top right, and by clicking I can publish the prototypes and publish some design space, manage my public links. But first thing we are to do, publish our prototype. We are gonna allow. With this, we come to the end of this session where we understand the basics of Adobe XD. After completing these steps, you now understand the fundamentals of Adobe XD. We must keep an eye out for the next release because the program constantly evolves and adds new features. Adobe XD is a relatively straightforward, user-friendly, and effective tool for developing and prototyping your apps for user interface. Do you have any doubt about Adobe XD? Please let us know in the comment section and stay tuned to Simplilearn. Thank you.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.